who went through this. Away from that, government spokesman presser, retired Colonel Cyrus Oguna, has addressed a wide range of issues touching on national disaster management, focusing on floods in northeastern and the upcoming Mashujaa Day. Take a look.
So in case of an emerging disaster, there is sufficient early warning system that is on the ground to be able to provide information and be able to advise on what needs to be done in order to be able to deal with that disaster. In general, the structure is like this. There are 47 coordination committees and emergencies operation centers. This means that every county headquarters has got one, a multi-agency coordination committee and emergency operations center. Now, operations center is like the hub that coordinates all activities to deal with any disaster within a county. There are also 47 county disaster committees to be able to determine the planning and the courses of action to be taken to deal with a disaster in any county. And there are also 8 regional multi-agency coordinating committees. There's one National Multi-Agency Coordination Committee or Center, and one National Disaster Management Executive Committee. So you can see from the grassroots all the way to national level, there are standing committees whose role is to monitor and advise on the appropriate action to be taken to deal with any emerging disaster. Indeed, we're talking about disasters that build over time. But there are also disasters that happen spontaneously. These are the same committees that will be able to quickly be called together, and then they determine what needs to be done and who else needs to be incorporated depending on the type of disaster. If it is, for instance, an air crash disaster, there will be a committee in Nairobi here that will determine and decide who else needs to be incorporated to deal with that disaster. In case it is a flooding disaster, the same way. In case it's an accident disaster, the same way. In case it is a building that has collapsed, the same way. So there are standing committees in every county, at every level, until the national government level. And therefore, there is sufficient organization infrastructure to monitor and to tackle all types of disaster in the country. As we talk about disaster preparedness, we are currently dealing with a building disaster. Now, the one we're talking about is flooding in the country. It may not have gotten to a disaster level because there are surveillance mechanisms in place to determine what actions need to be taken and also to determine which are these counties that are affected. The flooding, based on estimation and assessment from the county level, has affected 22 counties. Now, these counties are, I'll just read a few: Marsabit, Mandera, Wajir, Garissa, Isiolo, Samburu, Tana River, Lamu, Kilifi, Turkana, Baringo, West Pokot, among others. But in total, there are 22 that have been affected by flooding. Now, in urban areas, the areas that are at the risk of flooding are areas in Nairobi, Mombasa, and Narok. In Nairobi, we're talking about areas like Mukuru, Kibra, Mathare, and Kawangware.
All right, retired Colonel Cyrus Oguna, they're just talking about the disaster preparedness in the country. What he's said, 22 counties are affected by floods, and some of the urban areas, including Nairobi, Mombasa, and Narok,